I will admit that I've made a few videos that can be deemed a little controversial. I'm a very small channel right now, but I know that eventually some people might view these videos and take some issue with them, and that's fine. As an adult, I can acknowledge that people aren't always going to agree with my points, and that my mindset can even change in the future given new information. I welcome change as much as I can, and even if it is a little painful sometimes. This is going to be another video that might end up feeling a little controversial, which is why I don't like just to riff off script much, because I don't want my gut reaction to something to be the impression people are left with. I need a little time to properly form my thoughts in a coherent way, so I find that I articulate my points best when I script as opposed to when I just don't. I don't want this video to start any sort of drama, even though the people that I'm discussing are already in, kind of hot water to begin with, but I will say outright that if the people that I am discussing end up viewing this video, their gut reactions might be to be upset over what I'm saying, and that's fine. I understand and acknowledge that you want to do the right thing, or at least that you think it's the right thing to do, and maybe you don't agree with the points that I make here, which is also fine. As grown adults, we don't have to see it eye to eye, and that's fine and even healthy. You can stay in your lane and continue to do what you do, and I won't really try to demonize you for it. Anyway, this video is about kind of the subsection of the drama and commentary communities that have kind of started branching out into pretty heavy predator hunting behavior. This video is kind of inspired by the actions and controversies surrounding the creators of LioConvoy and Hopeless Peaches, and I'm going to discuss some things that they both did within the Discord server called the Senate, which is more of an open conversation to the entire genre of predator hunting as opposed to just criticizing them individually. Although off script here, I did actually go kind of heavy into LioConvoy in the second half of this video just because new information was brought to light and my opinions kind of like changed as I was scripting this video, so just be forewarned. There are actually countless channels participating in this predator hunting behavior around YouTube and, around the net actually. Much to do with the fact that someone with a larger audience, when they do it, more people are going to follow suit, either for the sake of raising awareness, or what they think is raising awareness, or just simply trying to gain clout of their own. Hey there, I'm here to interrupt your regularly scheduled entertainment. So in popular propaganda shows, ones like Criminal Minds or Law and Order, it is shown that child predators operate on the dark web in secret circles that require like S-rank mega hackers to uncover and bring to justice. Due to the nature of some people still being more ignorant of how the internet works, they might even believe these, honestly kind of cartoonish misconceptions. Unfortunately, that is not how reality works on the internet. Child predators are actually just all over the internet, and many of them are loud and proud of their behavior. Just look at some of the comments on family vlog accounts, videos of toddlers eating fruit, and fun exercise videos to try with your kids. Most modern child abuse material isn't the type of things that you would think when you hear that terminology. It's not nude photos being passed around in secret. It's actually innocent videos that freaks are just twisting to fit their own malicious agendas. There is a very real reason why videos marked for kids here on YouTube have the comment section automatically disabled, but even with video comments disabled, you can still see that people save and share videos of children around for whatever reason their hearts desire. Why would a video of a toddler covered in a sticky substance need to be downloaded over 1,000,000 times? Worse yet comes the inclusion of AI-generated images and videos, which can and will, and probably already are, being used and produced by these sick individuals for the content that they want. They no longer have to prey upon children in real time. They can generate the stuff they want, with the victims being none the wiser until that content is shared 1,000,000 times over and it's impossible to find the original source. With the increasingly public prevalence of online predators and an overall lack of authoritative actions to stop them, there's a growing sense of helplessness we all are collectively having. The questions of how do we protect children online when adults continue to occupy those spaces is complicated, because whatever measures you can logically think of, people intending to harm children will have their own methods of circumnavigating those protections, or children who shouldn't be doing certain things online are going to do them anyway because they're children and they don't like to be told what to do. The issue with lack of child spaces is even more worse with the fact that many places that were once specifically made for children have rapidly been shutting down in the wake of things like Flash no longer being supported on web browsers, endless microtransactions forcing out poor children from games, and people just generally arguing that children shouldn't be allowed online at all. Being a child online is grim, especially during this age of online influencers and monetized content. Family vloggers have exploited their kids to gain fame and money, some of which have even been informed numerous times that the type of content they produce can attract predators to their channels. In the case of the TikTok mother Jacqueline, who has roughly 50 million followers due to the content featuring her small preschool-age daughter, some people speculate that she might even be taking video requests from predators to post to her TikTok page. This mother has been warned and informed by hundreds, if not thousands of people that the kind of content she is producing with her daughter has been featured in predator circles, and her baffling response was that she just couldn't stop them from using her content featuring her daughter the way they wanted to use it. Despite the warnings people have issued to her, pleading with her to take her daughter's safety in consideration, Jacqueline continues to make content of her child and continues to allow people to download the videos from her TikTok page, a feature that actually can be disabled. Allegedly, the FBI might have been informed and is now investigating her. Again, allegedly, though. This TikTok situation is not unique as far as this kind of behavior goes, though. There are countless family channels with hundreds of videos to a channel featuring small children. When looking at video views for these kinds of channels, it's not a shock to see that videos that feature children are more likely to have higher view counts as opposed to the videos that don't. In the case of the 8 Passengers family channel, one of the top searches for a long time was in regards to the eldest daughter Sherry having her period for the first time. She was only a teenager when this was a trending search. A small off-script addition here is that with how easy it is for these creeps to find people in real life, it's only a matter of time before more and more of these quote-unquote internet child stars start getting stalked. All of this is to further drive home the point that if some disgusting individual wants to use your child for their own purposes, they no longer have to dig through the darkest recesses of the dark web to find that content. They can just load up your YouTube channel, your TikTok page, your Facebook account, and just download it straight from the source. The actions of these predators in the open has gotten so bold over the years that all you have to do is have your age listed as anything under 18 in order to spark a flood of messages and inboxes, first trying to befriend you, but slowly start encroaching more and more disgusting behavior. Or the boldest of these heinous people will skip the platitudes and immediately ask for inappropriate materials from the child. One TikTok live streamer, whom I've believed has been banned from the platform at this point because for the life of me I just cannot find them anymore, they highlighted this in a series of streams in which they just would leave their computer screen open to show a flood of messages that they would receive because they marked their accounts as things like 10-year-old, 14-year-old, and little girl. Predator hunting, in my opinion, has kind of been an exploitative topic for a little while now, originally in more true crime type of spaces, with an infamously popular show featuring Chris Hansen called To Catch a Predator, allegedly, again. This show ended up being cancelled because too many times high-profile individuals were the ones that ended up on the show. Chris Hansen proceeded to try to continue his predator hunting endeavors online, with the unfortunate inclusion of inserting himself within the ongoing situations revolving around Onision. Chris Hansen is a great segue into the main point of this video, the issues with predator hunting. Like I just mentioned, Chris Hansen inserted himself within the situation revolving around Onision's predatory behavior, and since he had been a part of the show that would track down predators, he had a certain air of authority on the subject, and enough people trusted him to help them get justice that led to a disastrous situation in which evidence against Onision was destroyed by someone working alongside Chris Hansen. You see, while their hearts were arguably probably in the right place, both Chris and the victims in trusting him to help them, Chris Hansen is not law enforcement. He's not a lawyer. He's not a police officer. He does not have any real authority to do anything to any of the predators he actually encounters. He's just a reporter. He interviews people. Sure, he can do some research into things, as most people are capable of doing, but he doesn't really have any authority to actually help the victims of these crimes. He cannot put a predator in jail. What he is ultimately doing is causing the victims to suffer by reliving their grief and trauma because he is actually unable to help them in the legal sense. And sure, as a public figure that used to work on a television show catering around predator hunting, he could have some connections to actual law enforcement, but that's about it. It would be up to them people to end up helping, the victims, and not Chris really himself. Another similar case would be the situation revolving around someone called EDP, who was lured to a meeting location because of a promise to meet up with a young teenage girl, either like 13 or 14 years old. But once he arrived, it was a few internet predator hunters who confronted him for his behavior instead. Due to these individuals not having the authority to do anything to EDP beyond just shoving a camera in his face and question him, he was not only able to just leave unscathed, but later he would try to twist the narrative of the encounter that it was pre-planned and staged event for their channel. Attempting to ruin their reputation in this way, his statements were trying to allude to any other predator hunting content that they posted would also be pre-planned and staged for the sake of internet notoriety. In fact, EDP has been called out several times for his behavior towards minors, but since he was lured to a public location, if he was smarter, he would have had ample time to erase the evidence of his behavior, form alibis for anything that he got away with doing, and even rebrand himself if he really wanted. Fortunately, EDP doesn't appear to be that smart, but allegedly he's working towards trying to legally change his name to get away from the people knowing that he is a predator. But what of the scumbags who prey on people online and tend to stay online, as far as we can tell? That's when we end up getting into the territory of the topic of this video, the drama commentary communities that I mentioned within the beginning of this video. Just look through popular creators of these spaces, and you'll see a plethora of thumbnails and titles with the words creep and predator and groomer, with like the eyes of the people or avatar censored or other, token things at this point. It's all very clickbait. While I do think it's important for the dangerous behavior to be called out and awareness to be spread on those topics, I would ultimately be a hypocrite if I didn't think those topics were important to be spread, seeing as I've made videos myself in regards to predator behavior in the past. I've spoken about Colleen Ballinger and James Charles, and have videos planned to talk about other creators like Yandere Dev and more. There is a good conversation to be had when discussing the behavior of people like these, like pointing out actions that are similar among them and how to identify signs leading up to an adult starting to groom a minor. The more education that we have available about these subjects, the safer our communities will ultimately be. That being said, I do take issue with the way that LioConvoy specifically handles predator hunting, and by extension the involvement of Hopeless Peaches and the entire Senate Discord server. It's under my current knowledge that Hopeless Peaches has ran for the hills after an allegation of misconduct involving minors surfaced, and the entire Discord server for the Senate had, I guess been obliterated, but I guess it's back now. I don't know, the order of operations there, but something happened with that server. But anyway, despite any, changes that server is trying to have now, the damage that they had caused with the community at large is still very present, and have left victims in their wake. LioConvoy especially has caused massive harm not only to the victims of online predators, but also the credibility of this entire predator hunting subspace. What should be operations full of research and evidence gathering, handling things alongside reputable sources of law enforcement, child protective services perhaps, and other legal channels has honestly kind of just turned into a blood sport mockery of who can yell at who the longest. When it comes to real investigations towards people accused of misconduct towards children, the accused themselves are only ever really approached once the proper legal channels have had a lot of time to get ready to potentially make an arrest. They don't just bring someone into a Discord call full of other people, children included, and scream at them about how much of a horrible piece of shit they are. They especially don't bring the victim of that person into, the room or the Discord call and have that person apologize to them. What? While I haven't watched every single video that LioConvoy has produced with his, Senate Discord calls, I've seen a lot of them though, the repeat pattern that I had noticed was things like bringing in the accused person, screaming at them if they didn't answer a question loud enough or quickly enough, degrade their intelligence, throw around slurs, and then admit to knowing that you shouldn't be using that kind of language, but oopsie. And above all, there is little to no mention of evidence against the accused party during these calls. And to add further, some of these calls kind of devolve into just insulting how the people look as well, as if their appearance has anything to do with their actions. Honestly, while it might be someone's gut reaction to belittle or even mock someone based on their perceived intelligence or appearance, it's really weak low-hanging fruit as far as tactics of arguments go. I do not believe that LioConvoy actually goes into these calls with a thorough plan of action with set goals to accomplish in terms of speaking with these people. Being completely frank, LioConvoy's actions during these calls are reminiscent to fictional police interrogations that you would see on a crime drama like SVU, but LioConvoy is no Elliot Stabler. While watching real interrogation footage of real investigations against an accused person, there is no good cop, bad cop routine like you would typically see on television. Most interrogations actually appear almost pleasant between the officers and the detainee, and that's because people are more receptive to responding to you if you are comfortable to talk to. It's no wonder LioConvoy's conversations with alleged predators yield absolutely no results when all he is doing for hours on end is screaming at them and calling them fucking stupid. It honestly angers me as well when he's going off on his tangents and blowing out his microphone and then becomes even more enraged when the other person on the call isn't responding. He hardly even takes a breath long enough, let alone let someone else speak, much less formulate their thoughts after being viciously berated for, a half hour straight. What is truly baffling to me, though, is the fact that these people are just kind of willingly sitting in the call and allowing him to scream at them. He is accomplishing nothing beyond raising his own blood pressure. Maybe he does have a point about the intelligence of these individuals, because if I was in a Discord call being screamed at like he is prone to doing, I would simply just hang up. Maybe it's because I'm a grown-ass adult, but I'm just not going to sit there and let someone talk to me like that, regardless of the situation that's led to that call. LioConvoy acts like he is the penultimate authority in the predator hunting space, and many of the people within his community also seem to treat him as such, or at least they did before everything kind of went to shit around him. I would say that it is probably due to his age that allotted him a fair amount of credibility within this space, since a good chunk of the people that I've seen that associate themselves within his community were between the ages of like 14 and maybe 23, while Leo himself is either late 30s or early 40s. It is always a red flag to me when a creator has fans calling them their online parent in any capacity. They are not your parent, regardless of how nicely they treat you. Hell, most likely they're not even your friend. And Leo encouraging this parasocial behavior by adopting some of his followers is dangerous, not only to himself, but these children and young adults as well. It's frankly more creepy than it is endearing. And off script here, I think that it's Leo's penchant for wanting people to view him as a parental figure that also leads him to thinking that he has more credibility online than what he really does. Because if someone younger than him is talking in a way that he doesn't like, he goes into this like father mode and just, it's really creepy. And he acts like he has the authority to tell these people what they should and shouldn't say, what they should and shouldn't do, and things of that nature. But I get a little more into that later. And while I'm not in the same camp as people like Zay or Gilded Pooh who believe that LioConvoy and Hopeless Peaches could have had some sort of weird sexual undertones to the relationship, I do believe that the concept of having their kind of mentor-mentee kind of relationship was also just doing more harm than good for the both of them. This imbalance of power between them was always going to lead to disaster, and frankly, I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner, especially with what I mentioned before, Leo thinking that he has some sort of authority to treat people the way that he interprets parenting should be, even though some of these people were grown adults that didn't need him to act like their dad. And further off script here, but his behavior in which he's trying to parent people is so reminiscent of how my dad was when I was growing up, and that for me was the biggest fucking red flag. A key example of evidence that LioConvoy believes he is more of an authority figure than he really is was during the second Coyote Lovely video he put out on his channel. Right in the beginning section of the video, he was leading up to the call with some minor context information. During this time, he speaks about how he was frustrated that this individual couldn't participate in a call during the time he wanted them to be there, due to prior engagements that they had with their real-life family. LioConvoy demanded that this person cancel those plans in order to get on the call to defend themselves.
But then he canceled his appearance on stream, citing an impromptu dinner with his family as the reason why. No one was happy about this. I told Coyote he needs to cancel his plans and be on that stream to defend himself.
Because he thinks that he has the authority to boss people around like a parent. If any of these Discord calls against alleged predators were real police interviews, these people would have asked for a lawyer pretty immediately because LioConvoy has no skills to garner a proper confession from them. Again, real investigations are more of a pleasant conversation in order to actually get the accused talking. If they don't feel like they are in danger, they will spill more information than if they felt like they were actively in trouble. LioConvoy is not a police officer, and he has no authority to help anyone beyond the brief and fleeting sense of liberation that you could get by seeing your abuser squirm. He is similar to Chris Henson's involvement in many regards in that way. Any relief a victim feels due to his actions is short-lived, since all of the accused needs to do is leave the Discord call, rebrand their online presence, and go about their lives as if nothing had happened. With a new name, new avatars, new communities, they just need to pick another child from the crowd because there was no real justice being served. Following into this rant about LioConvoy and his frankly useless actions in regards to his predator hunting behavior leads also kind of into Hopeless Peaches and by extent the rest of the participating members within the Senate Discord server. The largest reoccurring problem I can see with these amateur interrogations is really the lack of direction these calls have. Many of these calls end up with numerous spectators not only listening in but occasionally also speaking within the calls as well, with no real input to place within the conversation. The questions asked within these calls tend not to lead to anything, especially questions asked by Hopeless Peaches. In addition, like I mentioned before, these calls also tend to just devolve into insulting the accused intelligence or their appearance or things of that nature, or even belittling some people's experiences that, Hopeless Peaches or LioConvoy or any of the other, chiming individuals, they don't know that person's real life. They don't know the experiences that they've gone through, so there's no need to say that they're faking it or whatever. With the way that they question the accused, it kind of makes me believe that they are just going into these calls not with the intention to actually gather more information, but rather just to validate assumptions that they may have already had. To sum up everything, they talk way too much, and thus they don't really manage to gather any relevant information during these sessions because they aren't even really allowing the person they are screaming at a chance to breathe, let alone speak. Or in the case of the infamous Rosa call, anytime Rosa would say anything, they would just belittle her and mock her and say that she was wrong or whatever. I would also like to take a moment to point out that many other people have also pointed this out by now, that for individuals that will fight back, will argue back, and won't just sit and endure the verbal abuse from Leo and, the other Senate members, they simply will not even bother trying to bring them into a call to talk at that point. It is a particular double standard. Take the call that they were supposed to have with Zay, for example. That's Kai Weiss, if people don't know. Leo ended up canceling because he, quote-unquote, didn't associate with creeps or something along those lines, despite the fact that he has verbally berated people who have arguably done much worse things than Zay, that he also would call creeps during those calls. Now, I know why he didn't really take that call with Zay, and it's because he and Zay are actually pretty similar in terms of their amateur debating skills. While they both start with some points to make occasionally, they both quickly lose their cool and patience and lose their ability to form logical arguments and instead break down into calling the other person they are reacting to names. Honestly, neither of them are suited for live reactions, in my opinion. They're both too impulsive, and their mouths just kind of get them into trouble. I pose this question not only to LioConvoy, and not only to the members of the Senate server, but to the entire subspace of predator hunters they belong to. What tangible impact has your actions led to for the victims of these people? Have any of these alleged predators that you've encountered stopped their behavior because of you? Have any of them been properly investigated by law enforcement directly due to you reporting them? Have any of them been convicted or imprisoned from the evidence that you believe you gathered during these calls? Have the victims seen real justice? I have a feeling the answer to all of these has been no. So what do these people, a part of this specific section of predator hunting, really gain from this behavior? Well, if the answer isn't obvious, it's money. Just looking at LioConvoy's channel, videos reviewing his retro cartoons or toys only get about 1,000 or so views, as opposed to his videos relating to his style of predator hunting getting tens of thousands or even 100,000 views. While the numbers aren't as drastically different on like Harley TBS's channel, there is a certain uptick in views for videos involving alleged predator behavior there as well. Why else would you post Discord calls that go on for hours at a time? What good is having these calls public for an audience to watch? This method of public humiliation isn't really doing anything for the victims of these people. It's just serving as entertainment for people who are nosy. And yes, I don't regret calling these videos entertainment, because they don't serve any other purpose than that. They don't do enough to raise awareness of any of the victims' stories, seeing as most of these calls are just centered around the alleged and them being yelled at. And then I just want to get into, again, the, duration of these calls. Why else would you post these hours and hours and hours long calls if it wasn't for the embedded ads that you get on YouTube? Back on script, to further add to issues revolving LioConvoy and his behavior within this predator hunting space is arguably what has also ruined his reputation, in my opinion. His need to vilify people who he does not believe do enough in his eyes in regards to how to handle predators. Take the beforehand mention of Coyote Lovely, who was vilified for allegedly being friends with a zoophile, maybe? Then there's Zay, who, like I said, formerly known as Kai Weiss, for saying that he wished Spoctor would get the help that he obviously needs, a comment that LioConvoy insists meant that Zay was a predator apologist. And finally, the infamous 4-hour Discord call with the individual named Rosa, in which he had a gaggle of others within the call screaming at her and calling her slurs because she was a mod within, I think, the Glitch Tale server, when there was an alleged predator participating within that community, despite the fact that there was bound to be, a variety of other mods within that server. Somehow Rosa got the blunt end of hours of harassment for not banning this person, even if other mods could have also banned that person. Anyway, none of this is even taking into the account that LioConvoy has previously harassed a 15-year-old boy in another group call, threatening not only to find and show up to this child's house, but also allegedly called the police with a bogus mass shooter threat against the kid's school.
Jax, how old are you?
How's
I'm
he
Lio,
involved?
and how old
15.
are you?
15, man. What, you think I'm scared of you?
Oh, you
No,
don't
but
know.
you probably
You don't
should
know
be.
yet.
I should be. Give me a few reasons.
Well, number one, I can figure out I can figure out very quickly where a kid lives by their photo, and I'm pretty sure you probably got one running around.
That situation revolving the 15-year-old should have been the one that got him canceled to begin with, however long ago it happened, not whatever this situation with Peaches is right now. Leo, LARPing as a cop, believes that his word is law and that anyone who disagrees with him is an apologist, and if someone gets upset over something he has said or did, they're the ones at fault for being weak.
Content warning, I'm not going to be nice here. I'm going to say, imply, and outright state very mean things. If you cry about it in the comments, I will mock you. That understood? Have the pussies left yet? Too bad, we're doing it live!
Or most notably, as, other people have pointed out, and I've also realized it myself now, anytime anybody ever said anything bad about Peaches, suddenly they were enemy number one to Leo, despite any criticism that they possibly could have had that was valid against Peaches. Anyway, I know I've talked pretty extensively about Leo throughout the second half of the video. I kind of warned that at the beginning of the video, but he's not the only individual within the space that mishandles the task of predator hunting, and I just think that he's probably the worst one due to his need to pretend that he needs to hold these, interrogations of alleged abusers. At least I can say from the other channels that I've seen that they don't bring in those people onto their channels to publicly humiliate them with minimal evidence of wrongdoing, as far as I can tell at least. I understand that Leo's heart is probably in the right place with wanting to protect kids, and I won't downplay that, because if I did, the alternative being that he is solely acting in selfish interest is a little more heartbreaking than I think I can handle right now. I understand that with the nature of how law enforcement operates, particularly within the United States, and how police have been shown time and time again to fumble important situations ranging from mass shootings to simple wellness checks, and how child protective services are prone to dropping kids off in spaces that potentially could be more dangerous than the ones that they were evacuated from, it all is so hopeless feeling that citizens feel that they may have to do something themselves in order to protect the most vulnerable members of our communities. But LARPing as an interrogator, screaming at people you don't know anything about, past accusations against them, you're not doing any good. You're doing more harm. Your behavior could lead to hindrances towards real investigations. If they did commit these egregious acts that they've been accused of, all you are doing is giving them a warning, saying, I know, so soon someone who could actually punish you will also find out. Delete your evidence now. This video, as a whole, is not in defense of any of these people who have been accused of misconduct, but rather the issue I have with making their behavior public spectacles in the way that LioConvoy does. Like I mentioned earlier, you blew off some steam by screaming at them, but then they just leave the call, they change their name, they make a new account, they join new communities, and they find new victims. Ultimately, we need to do better, not just the people dedicated to the online predator hunting space, but everyone across the internet. We need to handle allegations of misconduct better. We need to listen more to the voices of victims and survivors more than the voices of the people trying to make money off of their suffering. We need to find better methods of raising awareness and educating young people of the warning signs that they could be interacting with someone who intends to harm them, so they too won't become victims and survivors. We just need to do better. I trust you all to be polite within the comment section, please. And I know I only vaguely mentioned the fallout between Leo and Peaches within this video, and that's mainly because, like, the topic wasn't necessarily about that. But if you want to comment things about that fallout, feel free to. Like, I'm open to new information regarding, you know, whatever happened between them. Anyway, leave a like on this video for the algorithm, and subscribe if you want to see more content by me. This video, like all of my content, is brought to you by Patreon, so thank you so much to Ippo, Alec, Ashley, and Mel for subscribing. Check out the link in the description if you would also like to support me on Patreon. Tiers start as little as $1 a month. This is Finn, signing off. Until next time.
I can't move on till I let go. I feel so lost, never at home. Need to be strong, every breath hold. 'Cause I can't move on till I let go.
After credit bonus here. In regards to Leo being in that call with the 15-year-old kid, screaming he was going to find that kid's house and the like, if I ever caught a grown-ass man talking to my son the way that Leo was talking to this kid, you best believe I would be taking everything that man fucking owned. He would wish he was dead at that point. Who the fuck does this dude think he is? You are not in any relation to this child. Stop threatening kids you don't know. You are just some middle-aged man in a furry mask pretending to be someone important, arguing with a child trolling you. And the other adults in that call who sat back and just said nothing or actively participated in trying to scare this kid straight or whatever the fuck you lot were trying to accomplish, shame on all of you as well. I just don't see where you chuckle fucks think you have the authority to bring a kid into a group call and threaten to show up to his house because he, was being an internet troll? This is some peak loser fucking behavior.